Hi and welcome on Gaia TV. Welcome, Billy Cook. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm what they call a spiritual medium, and I've always been aware of the spirit world since I was a child. At this moment, I'm in Copenhagen. I've been coming here to this dette mess for many years now, and my work in Denmark started many years ago when I was working in London, and I was invited over by the Paranormal Society in Jutland, and I think I've said that right.
You did.
And I went there, and it was successful. That I was invited to go on to a television program called KROP-SIND, and then Anders Mark and Trollman School, which was, I believe, very successful, which led on to many people saying to me, would I start a school here in Denmark, which I did, and the English School of Mediumship was born, and from that we've gone on to teach many Danish students the art of mediumship. People say, can you teach this? Yes, everyone has an ability, and what most mediums do is develop it and work with it. Mine started off when I was young. And like most mediums, we saw ghosts as kids. We didn't know the word spirit. We saw ghosts. And my mum was a tea leaf reader. She'd read the teacups, and I used to lay on the floor listening to her. And she used to tell everyone they was pregnant. And I knew everyone was pregnant down the street before their husbands did, because I used to listen to it. And I was so intrigued, interested. And she said to me, don't tell anyone, people will think you're silly. But my first experience was my grandmother, my father's mother, was very ill. And I was coming home from school one day, and everyone was crying. And they said, oh, Granny Cook is dead. I said, no, I've just seen her. And my mum said, what did she say? She said, Aunt Aggie ate all the fish and chips. And it turned out everyone was waiting around the bed for Granny Cook to die. And they was hungry. So my cousin went over to the fish shop to get fish and chips, 14. But by the time he come back, she had died. And my Aunt Aggie was rather a big girl. She ate most of them. So my mum just laughed and she said, wonderful. She thought it was wonderful to have that lovely gift. So that was the beginning. And then I just led a normal childhood. I used to see things, sense things. My family used to just joke about it. And then my mum died, unfortunately, when I was 14. And I was very close to her. And about 6 months after she died, I was being a little horror. No one was going to take the place of my mum. Nobody. And they'd gone to see Jerry Lewis at the Palladium, a big place in England. And I wasn't all bad. I made a pot of tea about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, just before they was due home. And there was my mum sitting in front of me. I went, oh, would you like a cup of tea? And then I went, oh my God, you're dead. And then I run out into the street, and my family, my sisters were coming along. And I run into the arms of my elder sister, May. And she said, what on earth's the matter? What on earth's the matter? I said, Mum's in there. And she said, well, why are you frightened? And I said, oh, there's a ghost. She said, your mother loves you. That's why she's here, because of the love that she had for you. And I've based my mediumship on that ever since. The ties of love can never be broken. And that's what mediumship is. Loved ones, your mums, your dads, your uncles, your aunts, your children, your dogs, come back from the so-called other world to let us know that life does continue. People say, oh, that it can't be done. But people said that the world was flat at one time. And I would say to people, don't have a closed mind. For mediumship, you need a complete open mind.
That's so right. Yeah, please continue.
And it's so important that any student that wants to develop their mediumship, that they do have an open mind. It's essential. And that basic requirement, love. Many people now, they go into it because they want to be a celebrity. They want it as a job. To me, it's a calling, not a job. And people say, oh, mediums make lots of money off people's grief. I used to have a hotel in England and a cafe. I made more money doing that than I do doing this work, I can assure people. But this was a calling to me that I wanted to give people that same joy of knowing that life continues. When I first got my message from my mum to say, I'm okay and I still love you. And I feel that's important when people are going through that grieving period. I had a lady today lost her dog and she was devastated. And I know how she felt because I lost my dog, and it's just like losing a child. So knowing that the animals live on also, it's a wonderful knowledge to know that life is not just confined to this world. There is another world, world within world, and that's where we pass on to in the next life. And you'll hear people talking about the higher angels and things. I always say there's no one higher than my mum. She was my angel. And that is the most important thing to be. But education is the key to all mediumship. A good teacher, a good mentor, I was lucky to have that. She shouted at me. I learned from the nose. And it made me strong to be able to do this work today. Because there's a few highs, there's lots of lows, and you do meet a lot of people that are going through the grieving period that need that lifting up, and you must put a smile on your face. I'm known as the happy medium because I do my work with the joy of spirit, and you've got to keep that up, help them overcome their grief. And to me, I can think of nothing more wonderful, the reunited loved ones with their dear ones departed, and they come back to say hello. It's a beautiful feeling, and many people out there know about this. It's a magic feeling, and sometimes it's like touching heaven. It's how beautiful it is. It really is nice.
It absolutely is. Can you tell a bit about the difference between being a psychic and being a medium?
The simplest way to say it is a psychic would talk about what is happening in your life now, around about you, your energy field, your auric field. They would talk about these things. And very good psychics, I work on both levels. But a medium will give you evidence. That's the key word, evidence of life after death. That's what a medium does. A spiritual medium links with spirit and gives you that evidence. Not information, evidence that you can tell that is the person that you have lost. Sometimes, as I said, it's like pulling teeth, and it's unbelievable. But the evidence is there, and every medium is to strive to push back the boundaries to allow that wonderful truth to come forward. But it all, once again, stems through education. When we started our school here in Copenhagen, it was successful, and we've had some wonderful mediums go through our doors. There's a wonderful lady called Annette Adele doing extremely well at this moment in time. Christian Viborg over there in Aarhus. Here we have a boy from working with us today from Stockholm that's been through the school, Jonas Paulsen, and a lovely girl, Yvonne Nielsen, that's working with us. All wonderful, wonderful mediums that have gone through. And they was with me 2 or 3 years to enable that, to sort of get that depth in their mediumship and to work with it. But as I said earlier on, too many people want to do it instantly. They don't want to take the time out to sit in the power and the energy that allows them to fulfill that gift that they have. Everyone has a gift. But some don't develop it properly. It's like playing the piano. Some go on to be Chopin, some play chopsticks. Does it matter as long as you bring joy to someone and you know what you're doing? But education, learn about it. Not silly things, scatty things, but the reality that life does continue after so-called death. And I've always had this wonderful feeling. When I left school, I joined the Merchant Navy. I sailed the 7 seas. Now I sail the spiritual ones. But When I was sailing the seven seas, I met a mentor, and we used to sit there and the ship would be rocking and we'd be having seances. Is there anybody there? It was great fun, enjoyable. And mediumship should be enjoyed. Too many people are po-faced and they're too wrapped up in their own importance. Mediumship is joy, the joy of spirit. It's fun. And if it's not fun, why do it? It should be the most wonderful experience in anyone's life. And especially when you're lifting the veil of sadness on someone else's life. That's so, so important.
So everything is done out of love.
Everything's done out of love. And of course, in development, the first thing that you learn to do is sit for the spirit world, and then you learn to love yourself and like who you are. And too often people start spiritual pathways when they're not quite balanced in their life. Things may be going wrong. In fact, I've just spoken to a lady today who went through the school, and when she went through it, she wasn't quite right. Now she's fine, and she said, I can't wait to get back to it now. The time is right. And that will happen to many people. The time will come when it is right to put your gifts into play, and you'll be able to work with them. But as I said, being at sea, I travel to many parts of the world, and it's the most wonderful experiences, spiritually and not so spiritual. I tell everyone, I make no bones about it, my life was sex, drugs and rock and roll. And I loved every minute of it. And people say, oh, wasn't it bad? Oh, how terrible for you, being a medium. No, not at all. It was fabulous. But I've moved on, I've grown. And as they say, come out of the darkness into the light. But it made me to be the person I am today. So when I do work, I have people that come to me from the spirit world that was drug addicts, alcoholics, people that things went wrong in their life. Well, they know I won't judge them because I've experienced such things and I know about them. And I feel that every medium, not necessarily be sex, drugs and rock and roll, but be aware of what goes on in life, especially today when there's so many problems in the world. And I believe it's important that people do become aware, because people that pass over today pass over with many different things than they did years ago, when it was just simply being ill and dying. I've had many suicides. I work in Germany, in Berlin, which is a wonderful place. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
It is.
And also a place called Wolfsburg, where they make the VW cars. And unfortunately there, everyone rushes around in these cars and these small roads. And there's a lot of young deaths there through car accidents. And I couldn't believe it when I first went there. Nearly everyone that was coming through was young guys through drinking too much dope and dying in their cars. And it was just amazing. And people would say, do you only link with young people? I said, no, it just happens to be here that this happens. So no matter where you go, whether it's Germany, Denmark, I work in Sweden, as well as the UK, and people just want to hear from their loved ones. And there's no language barrier. I would say the language of love has no barriers. And people just want to hear from their loved ones. I'm lucky here in Denmark and in Germany. Well, many people speak English, so there's not a problem. But in Germany, we always have to have a translator, which is fine. I don't mind working with a translator. So to me, it's an enjoyable thing. I love Copenhagen, always have done. I'm sure, as they say in a previous life, I must have been a Viking. And it's and the lady that organises for me, Helen Modell, who's been the mainstay of my work here in Denmark. Without her, I couldn't have done anything. She organises me, she gets my bookings, she organises the venues, everything here, and she's been a lifesaver for me and done everything. I can't thank her enough. And it's been brilliant working with her, because she also keeps my feet on the ground. And perhaps my ego might get in the way sometimes, and she'll puncture it, because she also has a wonderful sense of humour, like me. And we go to many different places. On Tuesday, we're in Gentofte. in the library there. We do a demonstration. Then I'm over to Bayern, and then down to Flensburg in Germany. And then I come back here in September. Aalborg, Aarhus, Friedrichshafen, and then Odense, back here in Copenhagen, and Malmo. So that's fine. So I come over here twice a year now. So, and to me, it's still as exciting as when I first started.
So great, so great. So there's a time for everything, even to die?
Oh, God. I believe that when Harry's explained to me by one of those young boys who died in Wolfsburg, his mother organised things for me there. And she said, Billy, he was only 19 when he died. But I believe that before we come here, he said to me, Mum, I'll only be with you for 19 years. I'll see you when you come back home. And I know that when I finally pop my clogs, my mum, dad, my loved ones, friend, and my dog will be waiting there for me. I have no hesitation or any doubt in saying that. Well, that is what our work is about, and doing that. And, you know, people say to me, don't you ever doubt? Most mediums doubt this gift. Why me? Why me? Why not me? And it's just that we have taken the time out to develop our gifts, mediums. And there's some wonderful ones, as I said, here in Denmark. And everyone has this ability. And I'd say to most people, take the time out, as I said earlier on, find a good teacher, a good group where you can develop this wonderful gift. And you'd be amazed how far it can take you within your own soul, within your own spirit. And that spirit, before you come here, I believe we have a purpose. And once we fulfill that purpose, that's when we pass over to the spirit world. And that's why there's no rhyme or reason, age or illness. My mum died of cancer at 44. Her friend had the same cancer at the same time as the rest, and she lived till she was 90. Same illness. Some people go into a car accident, a little bump, off they go to the spirit world. Other people have a horrific accident and they stay alive. So I believe it's because this fulfillment of the spirit, it's fulfilled its purpose. When it's ready, it would take an opportunity from weakness in body, mind or spirit to move over to the next life. And it is a life, a spiritual life, one of visualization, one of the mind, one of knowledge, and not the physical body. So all those of us like me that get a little bit fat, don't worry about the spirit world. We're all the same. We're all slim, so we don't have to worry about that. So, which I feel is very, very good. So that's important. But knowledge, as I say, is important. And some of these messages that you give to people are so poignant. And, you know, so many come back to, you think, oh my God, where did that come from? There was here in Denmark, a lovely lady, she won't mind me mentioning her name, Mia, and she come to me for a reading, and her son comes straight away, who died in New York. He was an au pair there, and he gave this wonderful, wonderful evidence that it was. And we've stayed friends, and it's brilliant to be able to alleviate some of that pain for her. And her other son, it was really, really great. A young man comes to me in England. His wife had just died. He was only 24 years old. She was 22, and they had 2 young children. The 2 kids sat in the other room playing, and I was giving them a message, and she come through and gave the nickname that they called each other, which was unknown to anyone else. He was in tears, I was in tears, the kids coming crying because we was crying. And it's magical mediumship. The joy it can bring, tears of joy, not of sadness, but of joy. So that's what I love to do, to bring that happiness. Always an experiment. I can't say I'm going to prove anything, but hopefully it works most times. Sometimes it doesn't work so well, and we have to accept that. And I feel that at those times, like all mediums, we all say the same thing. Oh, I've lost it. It's no good. But then the next message that you give will be helping someone. And that's very, very good. We gave a lovely message not so long ago in England to a young boy come through that on drugs that had took his own life by hanging. That he couldn't give his mother any more pain. She was overjoyed. And he told the stories of what he did to her and how he conned her into giving him money, what he'd spend on drugs. But she loved it, loved the little message that he proved that it was him. Wonderful. And I thought, my God, it's so lovely to be able to pass on that information to these people. So wonderful.
So fantastic. Thank you so much for telling your story.
It's my pleasure. And I say to everyone out there, you have a gift. Don't underestimate it. Everyone has a gift of some description. Find out what it is and develop your spirituality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vil du gøre dig mere synlig som behandler, eller har du et produkt, som verden skal kende til? Så har du nu muligheden for at markedsføre dig på Danmarks førende spirituelle online tv-station inden for sundhed og naturlige behandlingsmetoder. Derfor tilbyder Gaia TV dig nu muligheden for at købe et introabonnement for nye kunder til 995, hvor du får en 12-måneder markedsføringsperiode via Gaia TV's hjemmeside. Du kan se meget mere på gaiatv.dk.